Jade Babcock murdered his girlfriend, 37-year-old Brenda Lee Ebert Jacobs, in 2003. Babcock then hid her body until 2018, when he decided to dismember her remains in order to relocate them. It wasn't until the following year that a recent girlfriend, fearful for her own life, came forward to tell police she had witnessed his subsequent crime. Babcock, 52, will now spend the next 15 to 30 years in prison for Jacobs' murder. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced by Lycoming County Senior Judge Kenneth Brown in June 2022. Prosecutors dropped the additional charges of abuse of a corpse, obstruction of justice, and tampering with evidence in exchange for his plea to third-degree murder. Babcock gave the court an account of his crime, stating that Jacobs was murdered on December 26, 2003. His version of events matched what investigators believed happened, and they arrested and charged him with murder in 2019. Before the tragic event, Babcock and Jacobs had been drinking at their Montoursville, Pennsylvania, home, according to Babcock. The couple's holidays had been difficult because of their recent job loss, which had left them both without the financial means to buy Christmas presents for their families. They argued, according to Babcock, and he lost his cool. He slapped Jacobs while inebriated. Her nose started to bleed. He claimed she threatened him with a police report. It wasn't the first time he'd been charged with domestic violence. Babcock had previously been accused of assaulting Jacobs. He allegedly grabbed her by the hair and struck her in the face and around the head in August 2003. The case appeared to be going nowhere, but he claimed that when Jacobs threatened to report him again, he lost control and began striking her in the head with his fists. "I hit her hard the last time I hit her. I blew her up." Babcock told police that Jacobs lost consciousness and fell to the floor at some point. He claimed he first tried to shake her awake, but she was already dead. He told Nicole Spring, his court-appointed attorney, that he did not intend to kill her. He sat with her for at least 20 hours after her murder without calling for help. Babcock claimed to have wrapped Jacobs' body in a comforter and hidden her in a closet for months. When the weather warmed up, he relocated her body to a coal bin in the barn behind their house, which belonged to his grandmother. Jacobs' remains would remain there for 15 years. Her death was caused by a subdermal hematoma, according to an autopsy performed on her remains in 2019. However, the years that passed between her death and the discovery of her body prevented a definitive determination of what caused the brain bleed. According to the Cleveland Clinic, an untreated subdermal hematoma can kill someone within hours, raising the possibility that Jacobs died for some time while Babcock sat by doing nothing to help her. Gary Jacobs, Jacobs' ex-husband, reported her missing in early 2004. He had custody of the couple's 2 children at the time of Jacobs' murder, but after months of no contact with him or their children, he suspected something had happened to her. Gary told his brother Randy before his death in a motorbike accident in 2008 that he thought she died after December 27 rather than on the 26th, as Babcock recalled. Gary stated that he attempted to contact her that day but was unable to do so. He had been attempting to return the children to her care because he needed to leave town for business. When she couldn't be found, he made other plans for the kids and set out on his trip. He only reported her missing when he returned after New Year's Day and there was still no sign of her. Rather than looking for Jacobs, the police informed Gary that his ex-wife was not missing, but was attempting to avoid arrest for passing bad checks. They told him she was an adult who could do whatever she wanted, he said. Soon after, bench warrants were issued for Jacobs after she failed to appear in court for hearings on the check fraud charges. Gary Jacobs and his family suspected she was in hiding as well. In 2004, he hired lawyers to pursue a change in custody arrangements but was unable to locate her. Following his death, his family hired private investigators to find her. They needed to get in touch with her in order to settle Gary's estate. They even requested that the Social Security Administration notify them if she engaged in any activity. It wasn't until Jacobs' sister reported her missing in 2013 that police filed an official missing persons report. They claimed that this was the first time she had been reported missing to them, and they refused to comment on the fact that this contradicted Gary Jacobs' claims that she had been reported missing in 2004. Later records revealed that he had attempted to do so. Babcock discovered a new issue in November 2018. His grandmother sold the house where he had lived since the murder of Jacobs in 2003. He knew he'd have to dispose of her remains before leaving the property to the new owners, with her body still in the coal bunker out in the barn. He was living in the house with his new girlfriend, Brenda Jones, at the time. He confessed his crime to her, most likely because he didn't know how else to conceal what he had to do to remove the body. Jones would later tell police that she saw him use a hacksaw to cut off Jacobs' now mummified legs. Babcock severed Jacobs' legs in order to fit her into the box he would use to relocate her. He initially relocated the rest of her body to a storage facility in Williamsport. Later, he relocated her to another Philadelphia storage facility. Rather than packing her legs with the rest of her body, he threw them into Williamsport's Susquehanna River. On May 11, 2019, fishermen discovered them further downstream. Brenda E. Jones had grown afraid of Babcock by September 16, 2019, despite her silence for several months. She went to the police station and told them what he had said to her and what she had seen. She explained that before using the hacksaw, Babcock had attempted to disassemble Jacobs' body in order to fit it into the wooden box. When that didn't work, he went to get the saw. Jones then led cops to the Philadelphia storage facility where the remains were kept. Brenda Jones, 57, passed away in January 2022. A pathologist was unable to determine whether Jacobs' murder was intentional due to his body's decomposition and mummification. It was not, according to Babcock's admission. He claimed he had been drinking heavily and had not intended to kill her. Prosecutors were unable to charge Babcock with first-degree murder in her case because medical examiners were unable to determine the cause of the brain bleeding that caused her death. Babcock was offered a plea bargain in order to avoid a trial for Jacobs' family. He is currently serving his sentence at the Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution Camp Hill in Camp Hill. What are your thoughts on the Brenda Lee Ebert Jacobs case? I really appreciate your input. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Be a part of the Chris Crime Diaries family and hit the subscribe button now.